Stress after 60, feels different than it used to. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's just a constant background tension that never fully shuts off. And this tricky part is this kind of stress quietly affects your sleep, energy, weight, and focus. So today as I walk, I want to talk about how I think about stress after 60 and how I try to keep it manageable. Hi, I'm Kevin. I'm out for my walk today, and I want to talk honestly about stress after 60 because it's something that I deal with, it's something you deal with, and even though life can look calmer, it's more on the surface sometimes. So I'm not a doctor, and this isn't advice. I'm just sharing what I've noticed, what I do to keep stress from running my day as I try to live well after 60. So yeah, let's take a look. Walking down the path. It's a little shady. Part shady. It's like from one corner to the next. Shady and yeah, so the problem with stress after 60 is it's not always a big event. A lot of it comes from small ongoing pressures, health concerns, routines, finances, responsibilities, family, expectations that we put on ourselves. When stress stays elevated for too long, it starts showing up indirectly. So, yeah, sleep gets lighter, energy drops, patience shrinks. You get less patience, and everything feels harder than it should, right? Ignoring stress doesn't work, but worrying about it constantly doesn't help either. So, here are some of the shifts, that I talk about, my experience-based solutions. Deal with the problems early. I think that's one of the most important things is you can't ignore your problems. Check it out. Yeah. He's following his mom. They're hanging out today. That's cool. Very fun. He's learning to ride his little bike. So, yeah, you can't just hope it all goes away. Something is bothering me. I'll try to take care of it as quickly as I possibly can. So, it becomes less of a stress. I think, some things you can just take care of right away and get it off your plate. That way you don't have to stress about it, right? So, getting ahead of issues help keep them manageable and prevent unnecessary stress from building up. Now, think in simple strategies, not worry. So the first thing I do is I address the problem as fast as I possibly can. And then I address what the problem is and if there's any way of solving the problem. So I come up with strategies and things like that. Yeah, so when something comes up, I just don't sit with it. I think through a strategy. Sometimes one option, sometimes a couple, and decide which ones I want to move forward with. Once there's a plan, few clear tasks, the stress level usually drops considerably. So, and the third shift is build stress relief into my day. Even when I'm handling things responsibly, stress still shows up, right? So I make sure daily habits like walking and quiet thinking time are part of my routine to keep stress from piling up. So let's talk about a few actionable items. What are some things that you can try this week? If you want to try this approach, there are 3 simple habit-based things you could do this week. Handle 1 lingering problem, turn worry into tasks, and protect 1 daily stress reset habit. So handle 1 lingering problem, write it down. Decide on 1 or 2 possible strategies. Take 1 small step to move it forward. And, turn worry into the things that you need to get done, or turn them into tasks. If you're thinking about something repeatedly, it needs a plan. Even a simple plan reduces stress. Protect 1 daily stress reset habit. A walk. That's one I protect fiercely. I'm going to take my walks in the morning. There are times when I don't, but I can always make it up. Quiet time in the morning. Love my quiet time in the morning while my sweet wife is getting ready for work. She's still working. So, I have quiet time in the morning while she's getting ready, and then I help her leave the house so she's not so stressed about her leaving house. Love to help my wife. Stepping outside with no phone. Stress stays manageable when it has somewhere to go. So yeah, I know there are things that bother you. There are things that bother me. There's several ways that you can handle stress, and then there are several ways that you shouldn't handle stress. One of those ways not to handle stress is to start drinking, taking drugs, smoking marijuana. Those things are fun, but they're not. They're to be for fun, occasionally with your friends. So you want to kind of limit the things that can become addicting in your life. Adding more stress. We'll talk about marijuana for one, because as I drive by the dispensaries here in town, and in Las Vegas there are a number of them, I do notice a lot of older adults, getting out of the car, going into the building. In fact, it's probably, half and half, old people and young people. So that tells you right there, people are getting, taking advantage of the changing laws. They've heard things, about stress, and that marijuana helps stress. I personally have no problem with marijuana. You do it in your own home. You're not getting out and driving, which I honestly don't believe marijuana impairs your driving. I do not believe that marijuana impairs your driving, but I'm not the expert on that, so don't quote me on that. That's just my opinion only. All of this is just my opinion on how to deal with stress, but maybe it's kind of nice sometimes. I know for me, I like to hear from, older adults that are going through some of the similar problems. And if you're having similar problems, then, maybe watching my shows I pretty much do them every other day. So might be able to help you through, stressful situations. Stress puts a real load on your cortisol. So cortisol makes your insulin spike. And because insulin spikes, every time you eat, man, insulin is signaling to find a fat cell and stuff it full of carbs as quickly as possible so we can flush out the system and start all over again for the next meal. Keep your meals, don't eat so many meals. Don't eat so much food. So anyway, hi, I'm Kevin. If stress feels more constant after 60, you're not imagining it. And you're not and you're not doing anything wrong. For me, keeping stress manageable has been about handling problems early, thinking in strategies instead of worry, and protecting a few daily habits that bring things back into balance. This is what's helping me right now. Take what helps, leave the rest, and stick with me. Thanks for talking with me today, and I'll see you on the next walk. Beautiful, huh? It's Tuesday in Las Vegas, and it's about 50 degrees, and it's going to be about 60 degrees today. Another beautiful day in Las Vegas. Thanks for joining me. Stick with me.